Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are watching Off the Track, and it is time to drop the hammer.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to episode number 13 of Off the Track, a dirt track racing podcast where we like to talk about our experiences in the sport and interview guests to get their awesome take on what's going on. Welcome back to another Wednesday. I'm your host, Tanner Holmes, and to my left, I have my best friend and co-host, Bennett Gooch. Bennett, we had a pretty exciting weekend.
Yeah, we did. Another classic trip. It was on the side of the road. You guys picked us up Thursday, and then we went down to Ocean and then Hanford, and two new tracks that both of us for the first time went to, and I think they were pretty cool.
Yeah, this is going to be a great episode, and I think a perfect example of why we started the podcast. We've kind of talked about that in some of these early episodes. You know, a chance for us to really expand, and only 2 nights of racing. For example, we did a whole episode on Arizona when we ran the 410, and there was so much to talk about because that was 4 nights of action, plus traveling down there took a day, coming back took a day, and this was a little bit of a quicker trip, but man, so much happened, and I can't wait to really jump into that in today's episode. Like he said, Friday at Ocean Speedway with the 360 sprint car, and Saturday with the King of Thunder 410 sprints with the 410. And obviously, before we get into that though, we wanted to talk about a couple new additions to the studio. The first one is actually our good friend who we met in Arizona named Damien. Damien races karts, I believe, outlaw karts.
Yeah, he has a 250.
Yeah, he has a 250. He's from Colorado, and they came down to Arizona to watch us at the Wild Wing Shootout. Well, he made a nice little banner for our off-the-track studio, and he made sure to put his name on there. He was the one that created it, but did a great job, nailed the logo, and also put... welcome to the podcast Off the Track with Tanner Holmes and Bennett Gooch. Where I'm looking is where we have it hanging up in the studio right when you walk in. So that was cool. Do you want to talk about our second edition that we just added?
Yeah, something that's super cool about that too, just a quick mention, is you guys don't see the banner behind us right here, but that's okay because this is now our studio. So when we want to make content in here, we're going to keep adding memorabilia all across the walls. Like we have pictures on the other side of the studio, and I think as we add stuff, it might not necessarily be in the shot, but it's just super cool to keep adding it to our studio.
And I think that's a segue to also mention, like, for example, the next thing you're going to talk about, if you guys have something cool that you want us to add in here, and we'll give you a shout out, talk about it in one of our podcast episodes, definitely send it to us. I'll link my P.O. box or where to send stuff in the description down below, because we're always looking for cool things. Like in Arizona, we mentioned another fan had gave us a Steve Kinzer front nose wing from a sprint car, and we got that in here, and we're working on getting a spot for it as we still kind of continue to move stuff around and get this into a complete studio. But you want to talk about the second thing?
Yeah, so Ian from the Bench Racing podcast, and I had gone on his podcast, and you have as well,
I had been on his podcast as well.
He sent me, as you can see over here behind me, this truck and trailer die cast that are like, I think they're 1/64 scale, and they look like my actual rig. So it's a Ford dually with our Featherlight trailer, and then behind it, we have a red Speedtainer, like where my dwarf car is, my race shop called the Speedtainer. So that's super cool. And one thing that's unique about that is it's not just like a, hey, thanks for coming on. It's kind of like a personal thing, like, hey, thank you. And then you go put some detail into it. Like he put my number on the trailer and just down to the T, super unique, on point. I thought super cool. So big shout out to Ian. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was a nice gift. He sent both Bennett and I something. So that was cool to open it up, and a good gift for just going on his podcast. And definitely make sure to check it out, the Bench Racing podcast. The third one, something simple. You actually purchased it, right? When we were down in Tulare. We have a Rico Abreu diecast that you got from the Shop Rico merchandise trailer. So like we've said a couple times, we're just kind of trying to add to the studio as we continue to do these episodes, and it's going to be fun to kind of just see what it ends up looking like, down the road as we continue to do this. So now moving into just a couple things to mention before we kind of get into recapping Friday and Saturday. We had a lot go on in the racing world. On the dirt side of things, one of the main ones watching the Outlaws this weekend, we were trying to tune in, even though we were racing. It's fun to follow along on just social media and see what everyone's up to. James McFadden won at Kokomo, and Carson Macedo won at Hobstadt. And two crazy racetracks. Us racing at a bull ring this weekend at Ocean, it was kind of nuts to watch, Kokomo, a place where non-wing is super popular, and then also Hobstadt, a place where non-wing's popular, and see them put on some pretty phenomenal wing racing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then kind of on the more midget and I guess you say micro platform, they raced T-Town Midget Showdown, and two people we know, Buddy Kofoid, came from the Red Bluff Outlaws, had won the prelim night, right?
Yeah.
And then Tanner Thorson, which came from the same stomping grounds, won the finale night, and then Days and Pursley won the micro event portion of it. But the T-Town Midget Showdown, very small track, super small.
Yeah,
and
Port
I thought,
City.
Yeah, Port City is a really small track, and I thought the racing was kind of decent. It was kind of one lane around the bottom, but just follows along with that bull ring style.
Yeah, and I know quite a few people that watch the podcast and just the videos. I always get a lot of comments about Port City because it seems like it's fairly popular in the micro world, and a bunch of people always say I should make a trip there. And maybe if we're ever in the area, I'd love to maybe turn some laps in someone's micro. But man, a place that small, you guys know, and we're gonna talk about this.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of small tracks.
Right.
I can only imagine running a midget around there because it's such tight
so
racing.
tiny.
The slide jobs are close. It just all around. It's different.
I think the micros are really cool. It was fun to watch the micro show because you can really get going around the top, and then if you just roll the bottom and get that rocket launch off the bottom and the grip is super cool.
Yeah, a lot of people also kind of talk about maybe that's like you think, okay, Outlaw Karts, they're big places. Red Bluff, like Port City is that for micro. So that's something maybe some of the micro people watching can kind of, let us know if that's kind of how it is in the micro world. But nonetheless, it was awesome to see some racing action from that part of the United States. Let's just jump right now into kind of recapping our weekend. Night number 1, Ocean Speedway in Watsonville, California. One of the cool parts about us heading down there was your family and my family have some, I guess you could say, history in the area. My mom is from Monterey, which is very close to Watsonville, so we had family come there and watch the races on Friday, and actually had some family travel south to Hanford on Saturday. But it was kind of nice to be back in that area. I've made a couple trips down there, like I said, to see family, and it's just, I said it in my vlog, I think it'd be a beautiful place to live. We're 7 miles from the ocean.
Yeah.
The hillside, just everything about it was pretty neat.
Yeah, my mom is from Gilroy, which is pretty close down there too, and for her 50th birthday, we went skydiving, so like I said, I've only seen the facility from the sky. How many feet up, I don't even know. And then we've got some pretty close family friends that are from Morgan Hill, which is kind of just up the road. But I thought the ocean, like you said, it's super green, and that's something kind of Oregon-ish, California. The infields are always dirt, and they're not really like alive, I guess you could say. Whereas that was super clean cut grass, which is super pretty.
It kind of reminded me of like sometimes you see over in Australia or New Zealand, they have the grass on the infield. I did like that. That was a nice touch, like in photos. That's just a nice detail that you notice. But as far as we got there Thursday night, so we left Thursday evening here from Southern Oregon. It was about 7.5, 8 hours. My dad's a trucker, which we're going to get Dad on the podcast soon because he needs to talk about some of his trucking stories. Oh my. But he drove down. He loves driving the rig. He says one day if we ever make it big, he just wants that to be his job.
Yeah.
But anyway, so drive down there, got there about, maybe
Actually, that's the earliest
midnight.
we've ever gone down. Yeah, or got there at least to our destination. It was like midnight.
Usually when we're pulling into a racetrack, it's like 2, 3 in the morning. But this time we only got there at midnight. And the front gate was open. So we just pulled right in. We found a parking spot. We tried to position ourselves by the staging lane. So, maybe, first come, first serve. We were the only one there. I think there was only 2 or 3 other trailers in the pit area. But we got there. The next morning we woke up. We ended up having to move because we were parked in someone's spot.
Yep.
And I guess how Ocean does it, like they don't even actually allow people in. We just happened to get there the night before. But anyway, we got situated. Walking up to the racetrack, what was kind of your first thoughts? I know what my first thoughts were, but just looking at the Ocean Speedway kind of compared to, we've never been there before, watching on Flow Racing and seeing all the races that have happened this year, then actually seeing it in person. Yeah,
like you say, I've really only seen a lot of tracks on Flow Racing because we watch Flow quite often. And my first thoughts on it is super wide. And then when we got there, I was like, ooh, I didn't know it's actually, like, I didn't think it was banked as much as it was actually from Flow. So it was actually decently banked from what you see on TV, but still pretty flat, And then is, like I said, a clean facility. The track-wise, like you mentioned, I think you can talk about this a little bit. They have a man-made curb, and I've never seen that before. It's usually, like the track is ready to go, and there's not like any dirt on the outside that's like kind of built up. There's like a foot of marbles built up for a man-made curb, I guess. I thought the track was pretty cool once I saw it. Clean facility, like we said in our videos.
Yeah, walking up to the racetrack for the first time, to me, it's weird. So when I first saw it walking up to it, it looked bigger than maybe on videos.
Yeah.
But then once you get out there, you do realize how small it is in that bull ring aspect. The man-made curb was interesting because you don't see other tracks do that, but I kind of see what Ocean's trying to do. So Bennett said it was flat. It was fairly flat with a little bit of banking, and like both corners are different. 1 and 2 was flatter than 3 and 4. I think that's how it was.
And 3 and 4 you dip down, right?
Yeah,
You go down into it.
it's kind of weird. And like 3 and 4 was actually almost narrower, I guess, this week. I was talking to Justin Sanders, I guess you could say a legend of Ocean, wins all these races there. And he was talking about how the track did look a little bit different this week. Never being there before, we just saw it for the first time. But they had the man-made curb, and I guess part of their idea behind that is to try to keep some of the dirt in the racetrack and have like, this is where the top of the track is. You don't go higher than this.
Yeah.
Because they're also, after that dirt, it's not like Cottage Grove where it like kind of flattens off or goes back down. It kind of is just like the same almost. It's weird.
And that's the second smallest track. Is Banks smaller?
Yeah, Banks is definitely smaller, but it races different. So Ocean, like I said, got out there, and I'm not going to...
The curb bit you in qualifying, or hot laps.
Yeah.
I got it on video.
Yeah, the curb did get me, but rolling out there in mud pack, I as a driver, you never want to be negative. And obviously in the vlog, like I try not to talk about certain things like that because I don't want to make you guys not feel like I'm not confident.
Yeah.
You know, but here on the podcast, we talk about little things. I rolled out at Ocean, and I was like, this might be a disaster of a night. The only reason I thought that was like, man, when I rolled out, it felt like I was at Creek County. Now, Creek County is a racetrack we ran in Oklahoma during ASCS Speed Week, and that place was so small. Like, I just remember how it raced, and it was hooked up that night when we were there at Creek, and I'm like, man, Ocean has kind of been hit or miss this year. If it's hooked up tonight, this could be a disaster, because that's like two combinations of things that I kind of struggle at, smaller racetracks and hooked up racetracks.
Yep.
And so we got out there, and I realized as we were rolling around in mud pack, you know, you can feel it when a car rolls up next to you, and then you see, okay, it actually is narrow here, it's a little bit wider here. So we go out there for hot laps, kind of figure out, where your lifting points are. And that's the toughest thing about going to a new track is like, how hard can I drive it in, especially at a small track? Usually a big track, if there's banking, you can just sail it off in there wide open and you can just figure out how to keep the car straight. But going to a small track like Ocean, I've never really had to do this before. You turn into the corner, but you actually have to like really put some...
Really flick it in kind of.
Yeah, put some flick into it like a limited because you have power, but how the corners are, you actually have to drive it in really hard. And it's almost like, is my car going to make it through the corner?
Yeah.
It's weird. And then also on top of that, we had to run those the Flowmaster mufflers.
The big ones.
The ones that don't look very cool on your car, but those are so quiet. Like, it's weird. I thought people were joking, but you kind of can't hear the engine. Like, it throws you off at first.
Yeah.
Like, knowing, is my engine running correctly? Am I wide open? Like, it's different.
That's actually a unique point that you just brought up right there, because I've been on iRacing, and it might sound dumb because it's iRacing, but if sometimes my settings will get messed up and I don't hear my motor like last minute and I can't change it for the race. Is that kind of weird in real life?
It's the same thing. It's almost that's such a great point. It felt like the same thing. It took all night for me to get used to. Not necessarily that like affected my performance, but you're so used to rolling out there. And also, like I've ran in Montana where we sometimes just ran no mufflers at all.
Yeah.
So it's louder than loud, and you can really know what's going on versus that. It's like it's incredible. And then when those things also like backfire and pop, that's when it scares you because you can't hear anything really. Then it gets loud.
That's like, I don't know if you've ever had this happen. Have you ever rolled out in a car or even sprint car and your dang headphone falls out of your ear? So
yes,
you have
That
is the worst. You're hearing the motor buzz loud because your earphone's out, and then this one's all silent. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I have to be here the whole race. But like you're saying, that's kind of weird. And it was quiet from the infield.
Yeah,
sure.
it's much quieter, and I get why they have to do that. So we do what we can do to race. I'm all for that. It's just, like I said, they just kind of ugly looking.
Yeah.
But so anyway, we go out for hot laps, kind of figure things out. Felt all right. I think we were 10th quick. We went out later. So that's kind of why we were maybe a little higher up than, maybe if we were lower.
Yeah.
Go out for qualifying.
So hold on. This is something I want to bring up real quick. Good buddy of ours, Kyler Shaw. We had him on the show, right?
Yep.
Kyler and multiple people told you this. Qualifying's on the top, right?
Yeah, Kyler Shaw, on the show, he literally said before, because he was there at Ocean, he said, no matter what, qualifying is usually on the top here. Like, no matter what, you're always going to be ripping the top. Well, this 1 week, it was not on the top. It was it was about as high as you could go in 1 and 2. So his advice was correct there.
Yeah.
But 3 and 4, it built such a curb that the middle came in late. And actually that was way faster because the curb built up so much. People were hitting it, biking up, almost tipping over.
Yeah.
I did that. I looked like a rookie in qualifying because I just couldn't. I was trying to get in it on entry and turn down to catch grip,
yeah,
but what was happening, I was getting into it, and then I was slowing down, and I couldn't get off of it, and I was just losing so much time in the transition between getting off the curb. And as I should have, it was a rookie mistake, or however you want to put it. After trying it a couple times and getting all the opportunities I could, I should have just moved down and at least tried that once, so you know that for future. And I think one thing we did skip over, too, Bennett was in the infield.
Yeah.
And Bennett, you got to shoot a lot from there. What was that perspective like at Ocean? You were standing in a little tower, I guess you could say, but you were there for hot laps, qualifying, and heat races.
Yeah, I thought based on all the other infield tracks I've been to, I think the closest I've ever been to a car was definitely Arizona Speedway, just because they were like, hey, you can stand on the track if you want. But this one, you had to stand up in these towers. And like I said, when I say the inside, the infield was clean, cut grass, super nice. The tower was cool. And it's kind of unique being up on a platform looking down at the cars, because most of the time you're on the ground, or
you're kind of like
maybe you're up on a tractor tire, you know. But being up and looking down, I think the pictures may have looked a little bit different from like other pictures I've taken, because, you know, you're kind of head on with the car.
Yeah.
Or if it's a bank track, the car's way up here and you're down here. But here you're actually level, if not taller than the car. And I think the pictures turned out decent.
I think they turned out really good, and it was awesome to have you in the infield. And one thing we also learned, I guess Bennett was telling me in qualifying to move down because, you know, he had a different viewpoint. When you're in the car, you're kind of focused, new track. I'm just thinking, with my inexperience at running a curb, how can I go in there, you know, run the curb, use the right throttle control and brake combo, and turn off and turn the fastest lap. So I'm totally focused in race mode, and like everything else is zoned out, when I could have easily just looked at Bennett and he was telling me to run the middle.
Well, we had a bunch of people actually down there that we're good buddies with at race 2. So as the sessions, because you went out decently late, right?
Yeah, towards the back.
When the first sessions were going out, I was watching some of the people we know, like Justin's really fast down there. The Carricks are really fast down there. Is just watching, you know, where they ran, watching their times, because they have a sweet timing board with the top 5, I think, scored. And I would notice, like, people that run low, they would definitely hit the top 5.
Only a couple people were doing it, though.
Right, and then the middle to top, everyone was running, and then no one would really break into the top 5. And then Tanner comes out, and I was like, thinking back to what they said, he's going to run the top, and sure enough, you did. And I was like, dude, if you would have saw me, I don't know if you can give signals or not. I guess it might be kind of cheating.
Totally can.
Okay, well, the next time I'm just going to be like, get down to the bottom. But no, I saw that, and it's kind of cool watching infield from the infield, and then watching qualifying for sure, because then you just, I don't know, something about qualifying and sprint cars I love watching.
Yeah, it's just because we're so hammered down. But we ended up qualifying like 32nd, way deep. We started 8th in the heat race, got up to 5th, made some more mistakes in the heat race, but felt better. And the track finally started to get kind of racy, but
it's pretty gripped up still.
Only because we were in the last heat. The first couple of heats were just single file around the bottom. The last heat, it started to move up a little bit. So I will give Ocean props there. But with their format, since I qualified so bad, it went back to time. So like all the people that didn't transfer through the heat races, you know, the fastest guy in qualifying out of them was on the pole, and then so on back. So I started 15th in the B.
How many transfer out of heats there?
4.
4, and that's kind of unique, because usually other sprint car tracks are 6, right?
It just depends really
on
the
format.
series. Yeah, it just depends on the series and format. But yeah, 4 guys transferred out when there was like 9 car heat races. So that means, you know, half the guys are going to be going to a lower main. And I started 15th in the B. I'm going to have that GoPro posted, because that didn't really get included in the vlog because of timing. But man, that was
pretty fun to
pretty
watch.
cool B main. We passed a lot of cars, and I think guys that we were faster than, we just didn't lay down a better qualifying lap then. And we were able to kind of outrace them, put ourselves in a good spot. Moving on though from the B to the A. The A was kind of a disaster. The track wasn't really as racy as it was in the B. The B was probably the best it was all night, I would say. 3 and 4 was always around the bottom. 1 and 2 was racy between both, and actually even the middle wasn't too bad. But the A, it laid rubber. We were stuck in the back. I watched the video, and I saw a bunch of things I could have done better, but it's just tough. On these bull rings, 1, it's hard to see because there's so many cars clogged up in front of you. 2, especially, you know, when dust and dirt is getting flown around, I just got to work on being a little bit bolder, and just you kind of have to try to make things happen, but at the same time on a small track. In a way, it's good to be conservative, because it's so easy to bang wheels or have someone make a mistake. Not even you. You could do everything right, and you could get caught up in an instant.
One thing I was going to say is this is one of the first times I think we've watched from the new trailer, from the top of the trailer at a track you can watch from there. The track, it was weird. The track top was fastest lane, and then it went back. It went bottom on the start to top was the fastest, and then back to bottom when the rubber came in.
As the rubber started to work its way back down.
And then something with a short track, I think it was Kyler or Ricky, one of the two told me that was watching with me. They're like, this is one thing you need to work on a short track. Tanner's a really clean racer, but you got to start chopping people.
Yeah.
You just got to start working on chopping them, and that's just kind of what you got to do if you're going to get to the bottom, because sometimes you would play nice and they would get past you, but a small bull ring like that, you just got to chop them.
Yeah, I'm working on being more aggressive, and I think some drivers are just better at it than others, and especially racing in California. A lot of those guys, sometimes they don't care if you're there or not. So, for sure, that's something on the bull rings. You have to be so aggressive, and there's definitely an art to it. But anyway, that kind of wraps up Ocean. Our thoughts on it, man.
One thing, we DNF'd.
Yeah,
you want to explain what happened?
Oh, yeah. I guess I should. So, in the A main event, we were probably 24 laps in, I think it was, and the bolts actually that hold the torque tube into the rear end, they actually got stretched from a little bit of contact that was made in the B, and with just the heat of the moment, our quick turnaround between the B and the A, we didn't think about it because it doesn't look super slight in the video, but it was kind of just like a bump, just a typical bull ring, Nerf bar to Nerf bar. We bounce off each other, and it actually stretched a couple of the bolts, and they ended up breaking off, and then that disconnected the torque tube from the rear end, so the car popped out of gear. So that was unfortunate, but at the same time, maybe in a way, I guess you could say, we didn't burn up the tires more than they needed to, because at that point, it was so rubber down. No one's passing anyone.
Yep.
And that was just, that's how it was. So the Ocean Speedway, though, I would like to go back there again to just give it another shot. But like I've mentioned many times, that's just not necessarily my favorite style. It's tough to race on, especially when the track doesn't get super racy like it did that night. And then, like the position we're in, we make a mistake in qualifying, and your night's pretty much over.
Yeah, I think my takeaways from Ocean was next time bring a jacket, because it was freezing when I was done with the heat races. And I really want to actually get to Ocean myself in the dwarf car. I think Ocean would provide for great racing in the dwarf car series.
Yeah.
And I think there may be some pretty good shows that happen throughout the year down there. So I think it was fun. And if we go back with the sprint car, that'd be cool too. I like the facility, and I think it'd be cool.
And I think another thing that I always talk about racetracks, a lot of tracks have so much potential. Like Ocean does. We've seen a lot of cool races there before, just through highlight reels. But this year, first night was hammer down and rough, and the last two nights have been rubber down. So I don't know. It just hasn't really been there, and I don't know if I know they're going to try and turn it around. But as far as, our first experience, it was just so up and down and just trying to get used to the racetrack. But I'm sure one day we will be back at the Ocean Speedway. I'm not sure how much it really lines up for our schedule this season, but we're hoping to get back down to California to gain more experience. So now moving on to the topic of Hanford on Saturday, dropping the 410 and getting to race with some of the best California competition that California has to offer. Ocean, actually, I will say on Saturday, there was a lot of good cars. There was like 36 sprint cars, which for weekly competition, I mean, that's really, really good. I don't know a lot of other places in the country that really have that. Even in the Pacific Northwest, our weekly car counts are maybe 15 to 20, maybe a good night 25. But California has really been averaging like 30 to 40 to even some nights 50 in the 360 division.
I think our top two in California are going to be Ocean, and a lot of people are running Ocean Friday and going to Placerville
that's
Saturday.
a very popular combo for anybody that is not from the West Coast. You can run Ocean on Friday, Placerville on Saturday, and a lot of people like to do that on a weekly basis.
And even if you're feeling it, you can run Petaluma on Sunday.
Yeah, Petaluma is trying to put together some Sunday shows, so that's actually kind of cool. You can run 3 nights in a row in one state, fairly close together. But Hanford on Saturday. So we left Ocean Friday night. We had a good amount of fans. That was really cool to get that interaction from people that were there close to Watsonville. But since they weren't allowing spectators, there wasn't a whole lot of people, maybe compared to some of our normal nights. But then going to Hanford, I was pumped because they were allowing fans. It ended up being pretty packed. We saw people, even right when we pulled in. We were one of the first people. We got a parking spot. Peter Murphy, who is now running the joint, which I think we just got to take a second to talk about Peter Murphy. What a cool guy. First ever time I probably talked to him was when he came to our trailer, I think in Tulare, and just chatted with him a little bit. He was talking about the series they're putting together and everything they're trying to do in the area. And Bennett, since I had talked to them there, Bennett was like, hey, we're trying to get in the infield tonight. We want to do some drone stuff and trying to do more than even just, an infield shot and photos. Like, hey, could we even maybe ask him if we could throw the drone up in the air while they're racing? And maybe you want to talk about the interaction, just walking up and talking. He was so cool about it.
Yeah, I went up to Peter and I was like, hey, Peter, may I film on the infield? Because that's what I normally do, is ask the promoter. He's like, how much money you got. And I was like, I don't make much on my videos right now. He's just messing with us. And he's like, yeah, go for it. I don't care. And then I was like, hey, do you also mind if and I'll talk about this in a second, if I fly my drone on the infield? He's like, because it's funny. So yeah, let me just dive into this real quick. Drones, they're kind of a touchy subject, and if you fly too high, you're getting into flight regulations and stuff like that. So Hanford happens to be, here's Hanford, here's a fence, and here's an airport, Hanford Municipal. So he's like, yeah, just don't go fly it over the airport. And Peter wasn't concerned if I was going to hit a plane landing or anything. He was like, just don't fly it over there because they might think you're trying to steal their stuff. So I was like, all right. So he didn't care how high it went.
No,
he
was cool about it. Like he was
cool.
joking about it.
Yeah, but anyways, yeah, he's like, go for it, and that's super cool. I love it when a promoter's like, go for it, and they just trust you. And I didn't give him a reason not to trust me, and we went out there and flown it. But a quick mention with the drone, I made the investment. We got a drone. You guys have seen on my Instagram, Tanner's channel now.
I think we talked about it on the last podcast as well.
Okay, maybe we have then. Yeah, I flew the drone, and this is the first time I've flown it in the infield during a race, and I didn't do it at Ocean just because they
were a little bit stricter.
A little bit stricter.
They had more rules.
But I did fly it on the infield, and when I fly the drone prior to the races, we get super cool shots that are easy. But when you're flying video and race cars, it's pretty difficult, and I need to work on it. I'm not saying my content or the clips I got were great by any means. They were decent. But I just need to get a little more comfortable with it, and I want to get some different angles, and I don't know their thoughts on me, like, flying across the track. Obviously, I'd have to be pretty high up, but I don't know. I liked it. What are your thoughts?
And just a cool opportunity to get those shots because obviously not a lot of people are doing that.
Yeah.
And that fact that they were just cool with it and, didn't really question, like, hey, just wear a vest, don't be dumb about it, and I think the content really came out cool and a lot of stuff that we're going to put in the hard drive and just save for different pieces as we kind of go throughout the year and when we decide to go back to Hanford.
And one thing I was going to say, I just need to work on getting it a little more smooth and then keeping your car center. But a quick story, I've never had this happen before. Right as I went into the infield, their water truck was coming by watering the infield, and I put this in my vlog. He put the sprayer on, and there's me and another photographer by this light pole, and soaked me, absolutely soaked me. Like my pants were soaked. And I put it in my vlog, and I was like, well, I'm soaked. And thank goodness it was at Hanford because it was hot that day. And I was like, I actually didn't mind. It cooled me off, and it dried up pretty quick because I was sitting in the sun out there. But kind of a funny story there. But no, it's cool to go back on the infield. And then I always love being on the infield for 410 racing, 360 non-wing, and midgets. Like that's just some of the coolest cars to watch.
Just a great night to have USAC there and the King of Thunder 410s. But so we actually got there early Saturday morning.
Yep.
We started kind of doing all of our normal stuff, whether it's the video and we did maintenance. We had a little bit more work to do on the car than we thought just because of the previous night's damages with the torque tube. So we took care of that, and then we had to pull the 360 out and drop the 410 in, which we're starting to get much better at engine motor changes. It's really not super difficult once you get that process and that routine down. And like I said, that's something you have to be fast at because, in a non-pressure situation like we had, you get it all done and you make sure everything is tight. But sometimes we've had that situation where like, hey, change it in between a heat race and an A, and we got to go out there and perform. So we just have a lot of fun doing that. We just take our time, do our maintenance, make sure everything's right, because when you're racing against that high of a level of competition, you can't have mistakes on or off the racetrack. So we got that done. Then we just wanted to take a second to check out the facility.
Yeah.
Hanford was super nice. The pit area was kind of like a sandy dirt, which was kind of dusty, but it wasn't bad. It was smooth. Everyone kind of had their parking spot. It wasn't a hassle to get people in and out. There was plenty of room for rigs to get in. And then also they had a beautiful grandstand area right along the front straightaway where there was plenty of room for fans to come in and out. And I didn't get a chance to walk over there, but I'm pretty sure there was a nice concession area. And, man, just Hanford, I was so excited when I first walked up to the racetrack. Unlike Ocean, when I walked up and I was like, man, these bull rings, I don't know. I walked up to Hanford and I was like, this place is big. Sigh of relief. Wide racetrack, pretty banked, kind of flat in certain spots though. It's flatter than it looks on TV camera, watching the highlights. But man, a nice wide racetrack, and it really got good. As the night went on.
Yeah, touching on when we're talking about the facility, a lot of racetracks are somewhat organized in the pit area, but Hanford's super organized, and there's a lot of space.
Probably, actually, yeah, one of the top tracks as far as like when we came in. This guy, like, it was reserved parking, but it was like good reserved parking.
Right.
Like, Peter was there to assist anybody that was a newbie like us.
Yep.
Hey, this guy's not going to be there. That fits you right there.
Yep.
Pull right in. They weren't making anybody wait. It was in and out. It was easy to get pit passes. So I definitely like commend them hugely for that.
Not only that too, is they had this, speed tainers like I've got, or seed crates stacked up for the pits where
the pit
stands. You could go up there and watch. Pretty good viewing platform.
And you can see the whole racetrack.
Right. And then also they have, it's kind of unique. I don't know. What's your thoughts on killing a car before you roll it back to the trailer?
It's very safe. So at Hanford, what they do, and like for a driver, I could see how it maybe is a little bit annoying, but I think actually this is a great solution.
Yeah.
So you pull off the racetrack, you go to the right, and you go by the scales, and there's like a place where you have to stop. So all the cars pull it out of gear, and they have this huge mound where
the pit vehicles,
whether it's a mule or whether it's a quad or whatever you got, you can watch from there and you can see the racetrack.
It's a good view. That's
yeah,
what
you can see everything. And then after the race, when your driver pulls in after a heat or an A, everyone pulls it out of gear, stops. So then there's no chance of someone getting run over in the pits. And actually, I really liked that, even though, you do have to stop and you have to wait for someone to come get you. But for the most part, everyone cleared out. You're back at your pit area just about as fast as you would have been.
Yeah, I was going to say, I really like that feature that they've got there. It's kind of Bay Area traffic, going with the pit or the mule to get you pushed back. But other than that, I think the facility's super great.
It's a little chaotic, but it's super safe. So definitely a thumbs up to Hanford for adding that. I'm not sure how long it's been like that, but that's neat.
Yeah.
And then as far as the racetrack and getting out there for the first time, putting the 410 in. Running in Arizona, I felt like I was going to be super comfortable. You kind of have to adjust to that acceleration and that extra speed that you're going to have.
Yeah.
But one thing about Hanford, I couldn't believe it. In a way, it didn't feel faster than Arizona, but for some reason, when I first stepped on the gas, like how it kind of has a paper clip a feature to it, I guess. Maybe not necessarily.
Paperclip style.
Yeah, maybe that's actually not even the best word, but just how the straightaways are, you really actually can feel the speed. And then with the banking, how it's not banked like Arizona at all.
Yeah.
So you go in the corner and it is kind of weird. You have to like lift, and you don't have to get the car necessarily turned, but when we went out there for hot laps, it was greasy in certain spots, and then the sun was still pretty bad. So it just was tough. And then also with 8 or 9 cars out there. So in my hot lap session, I wasn't that great. And we had a couple things with the car that we needed to change because we just weren't sure how it was going to run after Ocean on Friday. So we made those changes, and then they were doing a 2 heat race format similar to New Zealand, and what they do, I think, over in Australia was the idea behind it. So no qualifying, you pull a pill. If you start up front in one heat race, you're going to start last in the next, or if you start in the middle in one, you start in the middle in the next.
Yeah.
And that was something that was different. It kind of reminded me of like an outlaw kart format. Maybe we run at like Roseburg or a couple of these other tracks. So we were familiar with it. And I started last in the first heat race, which was good because I was an absolute weapon in the first heat race. Like, I don't know how it looked from the infield, but trying to get used to the acceleration still, because hot laps wasn't really a fair shot because the track just wasn't there.
Right.
And even though we had the midgets and the non-wing 360s, it still didn't really come in yet. So the first heat race, it was still fast.
Yeah.
I had a bunch of tear-offs on, and the sun was bad. So that combo for me trying to get back in the swing of the 410 was horrible. I couldn't get my tear-offs pulled off fast enough.
Yeah.
And then also the sun getting into 3, you have to run it really hard. And I just couldn't really figure out where I was at each lap. And so I was lifting too early, and I was on the brakes at the wrong time. And overall, just kind of a disaster.
Yeah.
But we still went 8th to 4th because some people had some misfortunes, and we were just in the right spot at the right time. But it's crazy how fast you're going at Hanford when the track's hooked up.
Also to mention, I think there was 10 360s that showed up that ran with you guys, right?
Yeah, so there was only like 16 to 18 410s, but then there was a bunch of 360s because they were paying more money. I think it was like $300 bonus to the highest finishing 360, 200 for the second, I think 100 for third. So that was cool that they did that to kind of give an incentive for more cars, more sprint cars. And, when the track slickened off, obviously still a 410's better. And when it's hooked up, the 410's exponentially better.
Yeah.
But in a way, I think a couple of the 360 guys were right outside the top 10. So that was neat for them to have that kind of run.
Yeah.
But the first heat race, disaster. We were able to gain some spots. But moving on to the second heat race, I started on the pole with more good guys behind us, and we put down way better laps. I know you got some drone shots during this heat as well. Or no, maybe you got
the first heat.
The first heat you got drone shots. Second one were camera shots. Mm-hmm. But I finally kind of got used to running up more on the top side and figuring out like, how hard you can run it and actually trusting your car. I think that's one of the biggest things in racing, whether it's a kart, flat kart, modified, whatever, or a 410 wing sprint car, you got to trust it and drive in hard and hope that it's going to, do everything that it's supposed to do. And we ended up running second behind Shane Golubic. He got by us on the bottom, but the heat races were fairly good racing. It still was a pretty fast racetrack though.
Yeah. I have a quick question for you. So running on a track like this where it rolls off, there's no wall.
Yeah.
Do you like running on a track with a wall, like where the turn goes all the way to the wall, or where it rolls off to no wall?
I think it's tough. I running at a place like Cottage Grove, I really like it because there's so much banking. Yeah. So like Cottage Grove's more banked, so you can actually trust it more, where Hanford was flat in a way, or flatter. So like trying to figure that out and just how hard you could drive it. So I tried to talk to people beforehand and be like, hey, can you really rip this place wide open when it's hooked up, or, do you got to lift, or kind of where it is? So you just have an idea, at least in your head. And I actually, I'll say I think it's cool to run with no wall if the track has the banking like Hanford did, because once you figure it out, it's just the wall just kind of throws a whole nother element into it, because the dirt buildup's different. So like Hanford, a lot of times as they're knocking down the curb and moving the track up, the curb isn't actually as big because the dirt keeps getting thrown over the edge, versus like maybe Tulare or some of these other places with a wall, or like Willamette in Oregon, that dirt just keeps getting piled up, and that develops a bigger cushion. And then the wall also, it just adds another fear factor in there, I guess you could say. Just like
a lot safer for your car if you don't have a wall.
Yeah, you can fly off and just get back on, hopefully. So I would say for like a new guy trying to adjust to the 410, I think having no wall was better, because it just was one less thing to worry about. But the second heat race went good. We missed the little 8-car dash by one spot, so we rolled off 9th. And I think the feature was awesome.
It's one of the coolest things I've watched. It was
so much fun. And starting 9th, you look at the guys that are ahead of you, and, like this guy's won this and that guy's won that, and, just some of the accomplishments and guys you're up against. And then it's like myself, 4th race in a 410. And obviously I got a good amount of sprint car experience in a way, but I was like, man, just a couple laps ago, I couldn't even run this place halfway decent. And then the second heat, we were better. And then you're kind of right into the A against guys that have been running here for years. So I think for us, it was just about, trying to put together some laps and getting in a rhythm. And starting on the inside, it couldn't have went any better. The first start got called back because there was a yellow, but we ended up quickly kind of getting right into the top 5 and passing cars and making the bottom work. I ran the bottom all the way around. A lot of guys were running the top all the way around, and or the top in 3 and 4 and the bottom in 1 and 2, because 1 and 2 just got so far around, it seemed like.
Yeah, and not a lot of people were going off the edge in turn 2 as well. One thing I do remember, before the main was rolling off, I was standing by the back of the car and Roger was there, and I also think it's Kent from KPC, right?
Oh yeah, Steve Kent.
Yeah, Steve was telling Roger like, Tanner just needs to really, really open it up and turn in. And when I was listening to that, when I always hear information like that, I want to watch and see what cars are doing and watch Tanner do it. Well, when he started, he said you cannot even be a half a lane off, or you're just going to burn them off, and you're just not going to go forward on the bottom. And that was one of the truest things I think I've ever heard. It was so cool to watch, because I would watch you get in. Sometimes you'd get a little too much on the curb, or the inside berm, I guess you could say. But other times you would literally hook that grip, I guess you could say, get it, and it was just a rocket off. And that's what he said, open it up and be straight off. And that's what you did, and that was really fast. And then other times I would see you, literally, I'm talking a tire width off of the grip, and you would just sit there. Like, it was like you would just sit there, and everyone's going by you. It
feels like you're there for an hour,
right?
Dude.
It's so crazy how that little, like that much is the difference between the speed, but that was so cool to watch you do.
I think that's a valid point. Bring up Steve Kent, KPC. We run KPC chassis. It was awesome to have him there in the pit area. He wasn't like at our pit all night or anything, but he would stop by, and he gave me just advice. And him as a driver, he has so many accomplishments throughout the Northwest California in sprint car racing. And as a driver, to hear that from him, and the first piece of advice after the first heat race, he was like, all right, when you go in the corner, drive it in harder and don't lift as abruptly. I talked about that. I was getting too far out of the gas, so the car was just upset, really upset. So we fixed that for the second heat race, but I still need to drive the car maybe a little bit harder. And he talked about, all right, for the A main event, look much better on the top. But if you're going to run the bottom, because I think I ran the bottom one time and I wasn't that great.
Yeah.
He said, like you mentioned, open it up, and it's more important to catch the bottom on exit than it is on entry.
Right.
So you got to watch out, because as the track gets slicker, you do have to slow down. Like the pace for Hanford around the bottom and the pace around the top is way different. It's insane. Like if you watch DJ Neto, who won, who was just ripping it in 3 and 4, versus like not a lot of guys were really working the bottom, but like watch myself in 3 and 4, I am just putting on the brakes, trying to catch the grip. And in the A, we really made it work. Rolled the bottom nice. At one point, we were battling
up to third. We were up to third
for like
a
a
lap.
straightaway or two.
No, a lap.
Yeah.
And I was so mad at this. And I told Carly, I was getting so hyped because me and Carly were standing on top of the wheel. I was like, Carly, we're up to third. We're ripping. A car comes off of 2, and they're rolling. And I don't think you may have seen this. They come off 2, and I'm like, okay, let's get the lap in. Half the field gets past the line. If we drop the caution now, we are third. We're not reverting back to fourth. And then, of course, we go full freaking another lap. Bud gets you on the top, I believe.
Yeah, I think I missed it in 1 and 2.
Yeah, Bud gets you on the top, and then they drop the caution as half or more of the field passes the line, and we revert back to fourth. And I was like, oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
But I was like, if we could restart just in third, we might be contending for a win here or finishing a podium. But we did get 1 lap in third.
Yeah, so at one point we were up to third, like Bennett mentioned. And then from there, that restart hurt us a little bit because I didn't fire off as good as I needed to. I just missed 1 and 2 a little bit, and Dominic Selzy got by, and then Tony Gualda got by, so I was back to 6th, and then I got back into 5th, which is where we ended up finishing. But one thing to note there, man, those green flag runs for myself, I think as a driver, that's where I feel like I excel.
You were way better on a long run.
The longer run, the bottom was good, because if you could consistently hit it, I feel like even though it's so hard to hit the bottom at the pace, once you get used to it, I felt like I was kind of clicking off some really fast laps versus the top. When you're going balls to the wall, it's easy to make mistakes, get tight, push over the curb, and I started to make ground on people and lap traffic. So it would have been interesting to see how that race would have played out for myself if we would have went green to checkered from lap 1 to 30.
That's what I was going to say. If we hadn't have got that caution, Selzy caught up to you, and then you started to walk away.
But we were also catching Bud and Trey Starks for 2nd and 3rd.
You were catching those 2, and then Selzy caught you, but then you started to walk away from him, and then that caution came out, and then I was pumped. That's your first top 5 410 finish. It's the coolest thing in the world. Like, you can watch a car start on the pole and win. That's pretty cool, but there's nothing cooler than watching your driver, your car come from the back, just flying past people and getting up in contention for a win. So it's super fun to watch.
And I can 100% agree with that. My emotions just on the race, one, you kind of take a second, and it's not like we won. We didn't even run on the podium, but top 5, you look at the guys that were behind you, look at the guys that were in front of you, and you think we competed. We legit competed with these guys. We gave some of them a run for their money. They had to really work to pass us, and I think that's a proud moment for our program as we're so early in the 410 thing and just trying to gain as much experience as possible, and just so thankful that we had the chance to, run Ocean, run Hanford, and run with the Cali clique, the Cali guys.
Yeah.
And we look forward to being back down there. I think our next trip to California is for the Peter Murphy Classic. Hanford maybe is on Friday, and then Tulsa's on Saturday, or one of the two.
Yeah.
And we're not 100% sure what we're going to run yet, whether I think you can run the 360 and the 410, or we run both or one. But all that information will be out soon. So final thoughts on Hanford. Phenomenal track. Peter Murphy did a great job. The night went smoothly. Pretty cool format. And, the racing surface we had was, I would say, pretty much a 10 out of 10 for the most part. And we look forward to heading back there.
Yeah,
so
I
that's
agree.
kind of our weekend in California between Ocean and Hanford. 2 unique racetracks, 2 awesome chances to see fans. I think that's actually one thing I forgot to say.
Oh, yeah.
Hanford. You guys would not believe how many fans we had in our pit. Thank you to everyone that stopped by just to say hi, get a hero card. If you purchase merchandise, that really helps us, go up and down the road. We probably spent close to 45 minutes just signing autographs, taking pictures and talking to people and hearing your guys' story. That's like legit one of my favorite parts about what we do.
Oh, 100% agree. And that's when it's cool. It's cool when people are coming up and saying hi to me for one, but it's cool to meet everyone there. And it's kind of like you see people that comment on your social media and stuff. And then you start putting a face to what people say.
Oh,
in the
100%.
pits, and it's so cool to do and cool to see as well.
Yeah, I think that's something like lately, you guys obviously message us on any of our social media accounts. You comment on YouTube, but even with like our text phone, if you don't know what our text phone is, the Tanner Holmes text line, which I'm trying to do different things on it now, but it's pretty much like a lot of you guys signed up. All you have to do is text our number 541-930-1822, and you can get notifications on like new videos. We do merchandise deals, like if we're having a sale or any places that we're going to be, or, you know, things that if you just want to know and you really want to be kept up on what we're doing. And so I have a lot of people in that. We have like 900 contacts, and it's funny. You said, you know, I'm even starting to match people's like numbers and their contacts to people's faces because they said, hey, I texted you here, and I can go and find that easily. And so that's so much fun, and it's just a great chance to meet people, and it really made it feel like life was back to normal,
right?
Normal, and we're looking forward to hopefully more of that throughout 2021 as we travel to new places. So that was our weekend in California. We're looking forward to heading back there. I think it's now time to talk about what's next for us this upcoming weekend. Do you want to start with your plans?
Yeah, so this could be the big weekend. I'm holding my breath a little bit. We ordered brand new gauges and a brand new dash panel for the dwarf car, and our driveline should be done by this week. And then after that, we put it in the car, wire it up, and we're racing Wairika this weekend. So this will be my first race in the dwarf car. We wanted to hit that test session. I know we talked about it didn't end up happening just due to parts we didn't have, but now we should have everything, and we should be racing Wairika. I don't know what to expect, honestly. I'm just going to go out there and have fun. I don't want to look like a slap, but at the same time, it's my first time.
Yeah, it's your first time. I mean, I remember, you know, my first time in different things, whether it was moving up through outlaw kart classes or your first time in a sprint car. Like, it's really hard to adjust to new vehicles. And I think the biggest mountain to climb is just, you know, how the car drives, or how hard to drive the car, you know, where your lifting points are and how the racetrack's going to run, because he said Wairika, also known as the Siskiyou Golden Speedway now is its name. And I think there's going to be a pretty good turnout. They also have limited sprints and a couple other classes on tap. So do you know if it's being broadcasted by anyone?
I don't know if it's going to be broadcasted. All I know is I'll do a video on it, and I just don't want to wear it out. That's all I care about.
Keep the car in one piece. That's definitely a great goal. Up next for our race team, I don't think I'm going to be racing this weekend, it's looking like, but Carly's going to be running her first limited race of 2021, the second of her career, and I can't wait to watch her. I mean, she was pretty good in that first start in October last season. That obviously was huge here on the YouTube channel because so many of you guys tuned in, you know, saw the preparation of her getting fitted, getting the car together, to her first test session, to her first race, to cleaning the car and getting ready for this year. And you've also seen the process of us building her car this offseason after we had to, you know, make some changes to it. But that's going to be pretty exciting up at Cottage Grove. I think that's their second or third race this season. And that's a great place to learn at, just because it's wide, it's got banking, you can run the car hard, and for the most part, it's pretty smooth.
Yeah. Good luck to you guys. And I'm hoping to hear updates throughout the night.
Yes, I will keep you updated. I know it sucks that we can't. I wanted to be at Bennett's first dwarf car race. Then we have Carly's first race of the season, so we're kind of torn in different spots. So we're going to be heading north. Stay tuned for the vlog. You guys know Carly's a character, so I think it's going to be great that now I'm going to have the opportunity. I literally go there, and obviously I'm there to support her, but I get to make the whole vlog and not have to worry about racing. So there's so many things I'm going to be able to do, and as a content creator, that's something I'm really, really going to enjoy. But it's about time to wrap up this episode. We are going to end it with the fan question, Bennett.
Yeah, so Tyler asks, what's our favorite part about being content creators? And I'll let you start out with this one.
Yeah, so being a content creator, first off, this is like my dream job. And like, if any of you guys are wondering, you know, we love to talk about different topics and even like personal things here on the podcast. But like, for any of you guys that don't know, I finished high school, and like now this is kind of it for now, at least. And trying to make the YouTube and the social media and the marketing with the racing, I mean, this is it. This is like what I'm putting literally all my time into. You know, during the week, this is what I do. So it's it's awesome because right now, you know, the freedom of it, you know, you're not like maybe going to a job and you don't have that to worry about. But I think also just the chance to be creative. Like, you know, if there's a video idea or something, like we can easily be like, hey, let's go try this. Or, you know, the podcast, for example, like, hey, let's start a podcast. Let's go for it. And I think that's just also like the day and age that we live in. You know, there's so much opportunity. Whatever you want to do, you can tie it in to, you know, social media, whether that's, you know, YouTube or TikTok's blowing up. There's so many people that are using that as leverage to grow a following and have an audience. And I think, you know, for me, also another thing I really enjoy, I mentioned earlier, was just the chance to also meet that audience. And I think racing is is unique in that way. You know, maybe if you just have a regular YouTube channel and you vlog, you know, the way for you to meet your fans is like a meetup.
Yeah.
But racing, every time we're at the track, it's a meetup.
Yeah.
You know, you can walk up, we have our merchandise, there's us, you can talk to us. If you catch us at a good time, we can have a full-on conversation. Or, you know, you message us on social media, like I said, through the text phone, through Instagram, Facebook, whatever. So just the chance to interact with you and have you guys get to follow along with our journey, it's pretty special.
Yeah, I think if I do remember, like, so if I'm going to say what's my favorite part about it, I remember I was in like 8th grade or whatever, and me and my friends would always go home after school and get on video games and play like Call of Duty or something. And I really wanted to start a YouTube channel playing video games because we would always watch like the big content creators back then, like Vanos or something. I don't know. Do you know?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I do.
So we would always watch those, and I was like, man, I want to do that. I want to make those videos. And then I went to high school, just kind of got out of video games, played sports a lot. And I just kind of left the whole social media thing aside. And then you were flying with your career and you're still doing it great now. And then Tanner's really influenced me to kind of get back into it. And I think one of the coolest things about it is my favorite thing that I think I've found about it is not necessarily being the most famous person, but really just making content that we both enjoy.
Yeah.
That we can put out there that other people enjoy.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty cool to see so many people comment on my stuff like, man, that's a cool video. Cause like it's like for us, if you like it, then I'm satisfied. And I think that's the coolest thing is like working with someone with a mindset like you.
Yeah, similar mindsets. Like
Right.
we're like, it's the exact same. Like finding that, because, you know, when you're trying to grow something or do something, like you have to be with people that
want to do it.
Yeah, want to do it and have, you know, because like, for example, if you guys are watching this podcast and you want to do something, like you need to find people and friends that like have that similar mindset. Because if you're hanging out with people that just want to sit on the couch all day, and there's nothing wrong with that, and maybe go to work 4 times a week, like that's fine. But, you know, I think that's one thing that works so much about this is like, you know, like you said, we both are in the same spot.
Yeah, not only that too is I've thought of a ton of ideas, and I'll tell you what, if Tanner wasn't here to tell me like, yeah, that's not going to work, then I would have done them. But the cool thing about it is we just think of so many ideas that we're both like, it's, I don't know, we think alike so much. We're like, you know what, this video is going to be awesome. This idea is great. And then we're just like, you know, this idea is not going to be good. So I think that's just the coolest part is just finding something we really are passionate about and just making stuff for everyone to enjoy, really.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's the opportunity that so many of us have with social media. So I would encourage you, if you like what we're doing or anybody else, I mean, there's so many, I guess you could say content creators, influencers, whatever, you know, follow your dreams and don't let anybody tell you, you know, if people are telling you not to do it, like you need to like,
they're jealous.
You need to like eliminate that or somehow get rid of that. Cause you know, positive energy is, you know, what helps, fuel the fire, I guess you could say. So that's a great way to end today's episode number 13. We always love doing the ones just by ourselves because there's so much that happens at the races that don't make it in our 10 or 15 minute vlogs. So if you guys want to, you can tune in every single Wednesday right here on the Off the Track YouTube channel. Make sure to share this podcast. That's a great way to get it out. Send the link to your buddy, share it on social media, or you can listen right on Spotify or Apple Podcast if you just want to check out the audio version. Anyway, we are going to sign off. Stay tuned for our busy weekend and all the content coming your way. And man, this podcast has been a lot of fun. So we'll see you guys all in episode number 14 next Wednesday.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are watching Off the Track, and it is time to drop the hammer.